right, peace and much love. Zin Uru here. Yo, I just want to welcome y'all here to Message from the Minista. This week's message from the Minista is going to be the art of meditation. The art of meditation. I'm in a very meditative state of mind right now, and I actually had an entire other lesson plan prepared this week. But this is the one that as I was going over the notes and I was just feeling my own meditative state of being, that I was like, you know what? I haven't really talked about meditation. And so instead of going over notes and studying and bringing all these different quotes and things and like that, like I normally would, I'm going to just talk. I made some notes tonight, but I just want to talk about what it means to live in meditation and have a meditative lifestyle and you know, how that works. And so I'm going to speak from experience a lot here because I've been meditating since I was 13 years old when I first learned what meditation was, which was, 13. I'm 48 now. You do the math. 25 years, 35 years. Woo, 35 years of meditation. Wow, 35 years of meditation. So I just, the reason I want to talk about meditation is because a lot of times, well, first of all, let me welcome you all here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here in this meditation with I and I. I see you all here. There is no such thing as time and space for real. And therefore, we are all here together, united in one spirit, in one meditation. And thank you all for being here. And just big up to all of you who tune in each and every week, and for any work that you're doing on yourselves. Really, these are all just techniques. Everything I talk about every week, everything that's being presented here every week, they're talking points in that these are useful techniques that I've used in my life that have worked, right? But of everything, if there's anything you ever glean from Zin Uru, it's that the return to your Creator, the return to your God, the relationship with you and your God, that energy, that synergy, that vibrational frequency, that sound, that light that you are when you know that you have a loving God who is looking out for you, who has got your best interest in mind, who's guiding you and protecting you, and at the same time is putting you through the ringer called life. We always think about God, and there's always these ideas of God, right, where, God's just always protecting us and keeping us safe. But God's not doing this. God's sticking us in these circumstances. And God's putting us in this life and in this world for a specific reason, plan, and purpose. And so this is the perfection of God, and this is the perfection of the spirit, and this is the perfection of the soul, and really the perfection of the water body. When we can see that, no matter how crazy things get, no matter what our mind is seeing, what our eyes are seeing, what we are witnessing on this earth, that God is allowing and creating it all to happen. And in our faith, we step forward to God in that faith, saying, God, I know you put me through the ringer right now. I know, God, that, all of these difficulties and all of these things in my life are actually for my own betterment and the evolution of my consciousness and the evolution of my soul. But dang, God, this is crazy right now. This situation that's happening in the world, the situation that's happening in my life, God, I don't know if I can take any more of it, And then there's other times where we're so caught up in the rapturous moment of love and the good feelings and the family and the children and we get raptured in these moments of love in our life that we almost just forget that there is a Creator. But it's not that we forget, because we're literally experiencing the Creator in that way. And so we say, a lot of times I feel that we don't thank God enough for the good things in our life, and we complain too much, or we worry too much, or we dwell too much on the things that are going wrong. And there's a sweet spot in there. That's the meditation, that's the yin and yang of it. That's the balance, that's the harmony. Not harmonizing good and evil. No, that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about harmonizing the blessing and the burden. The blessing in life is that laughter with the kids, and you just as a parent, I know you feel me when you got that love with your children, and there's just these moments of just like where life couldn't be any sweeter. And then there's the other side where you're going through the depths and the trenches and the darkness, and it's like, oh man, life couldn't be any harder. Why, God, why? Right? That's the burden of life, and the blessing being just that laughter or that sweetness that we often experience, or that we really probably seldom experience, but we wait for those moments for that nectar of life in that way. The laughter is that nectar of life. So how does this all relate to meditation? Well, I think it's a good idea, whenever you sit out to start a meditation, that a warm heart is, I'm always going to say start with the warm heart. Get that heart warm, right? But while you're warming up that heart, what's the mind doing? Okay? What's the mind doing while the heart's getting warm? Or the heart's just, if your heart's warm all the time, then you're just keeping it warm. We're just keeping it warm, like just always sustaining this warm heart that we have. But what's the mind doing? The mind can be like, heart's getting warm, but the mind can then start expanding, and as a reminder to the mind that God is the all, the oneness, the wholeness, the great event that is allowing and ordaining and all of this to happen with such precision that those who live the prophecies out of whatever their culture is or their own personal story, they're left in awe at the precision of God's accuracy and God's timing in everything. And what this does is getting in that mental state automatically separates any worry. It just dissolves the worry. You let go and let God in that moment. So you say, I'm going to go sit and meditate right now. I'm going to take a moment to meditate. Find yourself a quiet spot, okay? This is the first technique right here. To me, this is the meditation technique. And I know I've 35 years of meditation. All of this is street knowledge, street level meditation. I did learn it in karate class from a Marine who was stationed in Okinawa. Let me take a moment here and pause and tell the story of who I learned meditation from. Sensei Alan Dollar, 6'4", bodybuilder, Marine bare knuckle boxing champion back in the war. Back in the war, he was stationed in Okinawa, right? And when he was in the Marines, he was stationed in Okinawa. He was the Marine bare knuckle boxing champion, bodybuilder, 6'4" in Japan. Okay? He's out drinking sake with the other Marine buddies. And all of a sudden, he gets in a fist fight with some Japanese dude, okay? And Sensei Alan Dollar, before Sensei Alan Dollar gets his ass handed to him by Okinawan karate, right? And so that set him on it's like a movie, right? There's a movie, I know there's a movie almost identical to what happened to him, this story. And so he gets his ass handed to him, then he goes and learns the way of Okinawan karate and the ways of Zen. ascends to the rank of sensei and is allowed to go to the United States to teach. And so I had the fortune that in my little small town of Antioch, the sensei dollar was there. And so as a 13-year-old, I'm taking karate, Zin Uru karate do. I'm taking that Okinawan karate, and I go into the dojo, right? And it's a hardwood floor. And usually you go into the dojo and it smells like the dojo. If you've ever been to a dojo, yeah, you'll know what it smells like. And so I'm going in there. I got my duffel bag full of my gi and my gear and water, and I'm like, getting ready for class. And I go in there, and there's curtains drawn over the windows, and usually we got to let the sunlight in, right? And there's curtains drawn over the windows, like, oh. And I open up the door, and it's completely dark with candles lit. And there's this flute music playing over the sound system. And there's this smell in the air. I'd never smelled incense before that I remember. And the smell of incense in the air. And it was like instantaneous, like, ooh, wait a minute here. And I walked in, and one of the other students is like, oh, come this way here, go over here and sit. He says, just sit that way, cross-legged. And so I sat on the ground cross-legged, like 13 years old, like, what is going on in here, And just looking around, and there's Sensei Dollar just sitting up there, just sitting, cross-legged, zazen. We called it a zazen. And just sitting there in meditation, right? And I had one of the other instructors came over, and he straightened my back up and showed me the way. He said, relax your shoulders, keep your spine straight. And I just sat there, and I just sat there and meditated. And what was interesting is there was no other instruction than that, right? There was no other instruction going on than that. Just sitting in the meditation, it's like the brains all automatically start getting into syncopation with one another. And there's probably about, at that time, I don't know, 15, 20 students in the class, and we're all meditating. All different ages too, all different ages. And so we started synchronizing in that meditative state. And I learned in such a way that I didn't even get instructions on how to meditate, but then I experienced the meditation right there. So, there's so many fancy techniques of meditation out there, and every time I've studied one, most of the time, I know more than they do about meditation. I'm further along in my meditation because it's 35 years deep, and trial and error and reading and studying and then just going and just figuring it out for myself. But I know it all gets back to that one experience of sitting there in stillness, not being given any instructions. So always return to that space. I always return to that space because the freedom to know that you already know how to meditate. Now, getting back to the warm heart, just sitting there in stillness, finding a quiet place and, making a space in your room or a room in your house or somewhere where you can get to easily. Setting up, a box with some incense and pictures of your loved ones, maybe some inspirational quotes or your favorite book, or, opened up the different passages that you may appreciate and just those things, and some candles or some salt lamps or whatever it is on that meditation, and some incense, if I didn't say that already, and maybe some music. And you just get into that space and you just sit, and, it's different for everybody, right? Because it's how you're comfortable. And, I can sit there zazen, which is, how I learned, with my back straight, head, chin tucked down slightly, hips open, legs crossed, and just sit there. Now, for hours sometimes. But I know that's not easy if you're starting out, so you work your way up to it. But the important part of it is that it's the quiet space, it's the stillness, it's the setting aside time to listen. You're going to have questions while you meditate, but listen. That's what meditation is listening. The old saying is that prayer is when you talk to God, and meditation is when God talks to you. And so that's why I was saying before I went off the road there and told the story about Sensei Alan Dollar, was that That warm heart, starting with that, just tuning into the warm heart in that quiet space. You've made yourself a space. You found yourself this quiet space. You've got your music, your incense, maybe no music. You hear the waves outside, or you just listen to the cars driving by or the crickets chirping. Whatever that space is for you, the hum of the air conditioner, it's a great one. Whatever that space is for you, but it's quiet, the lights are turned down. You've got either a candle or a salt lamp or something with, very, like the color of fire, the orange and yellow, and use that, Use that in meditation. And that's the warm heart. That reminds the heart to be warm. And then the mind being in that space that it just realizes that in its wholeness and in its perfection, all is God. Everything that is happening is God, and it's perfect, and you're perfect in that. And then take whatever may be bothering you on your mind and remind yourself, this is just for the evolution of my consciousness. Everything really is God. Therefore, all the so-called evil in the world is God, and all the so-called good in the world is God, and all the evil that's being done is God, and all the good being done is God. I don't really say I even understand all of it, God. But I know that I'm not in control of it. I am in control of who I am and what I am, and that may even be debatable. But in this moment, I'm going to sit and experience because, as my good friend Dr. Apollo says, the one thing that's guaranteed in life is experience, and that's that you're going to experience life. He said they say death and taxes are the only things in life that are guaranteed are death and taxes, but death, there's people who haven't died. Elijah in the Bible, as an example. And there's people who don't pay taxes. Okay, so death and taxes aren't guaranteed in life, but experience is guaranteed in life. Whatever you're going to do in life, you're going to experience this thing called life. This word that we call life. This experience, which is life. Experience in life. Life is an experience. And you're going to experience it. And we're all here experiencing it together, or you may be the only one who's experiencing it and everybody else is just here for the evolution of your consciousness. So sitting in that space of experience with the warm heart, we just tune into our breath then. So we start warm heart, that mental space of God. I call it the God space, the God mind. Just allowing the mind to reconnect with the vastness of all that is, which is God. Because then it goes beyond judgment, because you are in the wholeness with God. And you got this warm heart. You just start breathing. And what this breathing does is it connects the so-called lower and upper chakras, right? The root and the crown. You just breathe and you feel your breath going down. While you're breathing in, it's going down and it's rising up. And when you're breathing out, it's coming down and out, up and out, right? You've got the yin and the yang always up and down, in and out, left and right. And so as this breath is going in, you can just realize that, I like to breathe through my nose, right? And I'll take a few deep breaths. Just feeling the body up, with that energy and that light and that breath and that chi. And then in that stillness, it's very interesting because stillness of mind, how often it's misunderstood. Because the mind can be asking a lot of questions and still be still. But the mind can be quiet and still be a raging storm. So to quiet one's mind isn't really it is a goal. It is achievable. And it's a wonderful place to be, to quietly still one's mind or to still one's mind into the quietness. But when you're meditating, don't ignore the questions. Don't ignore those voices. You're listening to the voice of God, which is really the feelings you're receiving. And you can see that the mind and the feelings are so interconnected that they're the same thing, being interpreted by the mind and the feelings, the mind and the heart. That's the same thing as well. That as these thoughts start entering your mind, and if they cause you a little trouble, be still with your troubled heart and offer your troubled heart love, care, peace, patience. And what you'll notice is that as you're offering your love, that heart, your feelings of whatever those feelings are, they can be great feelings too. When you feel love, when you're sitting there meditating and you just met a new love in your life, or some experience you just had that just made your heart feel so warm, and so you're meditating and you're feeling that too, be still with that too. And love and care for it every bit as much as any kind of suffering that may be there. And when you do that, you're embracing that warm heart. It begins, that's the Christ within, is beginning to embrace life as it is. The experience itself, the pain and the suffering and the joy and the love, all at the same time. It's happening at the same time. So we're just sitting there just experiencing that, and the mind then gets to go, oh, wait a minute. I've been attached to my feelings. And when we attach ourselves to our feelings, the feelings don't really have a chance to really fully be felt. And of course we attach ourselves to our feeling because who wants to totally feel any kind of suffering or pain? But I'll tell you this. When we don't feel the pain, it just sits there and it gets stronger and more dense and more heavy when we don't experience the pain. When we don't allow ourselves to experience the suffering because we're so spiritual, we would never suffer. Are you so spiritual that you can see children starving and you don't feel a thing? That's not spirituality at all. There's no spirit there. You're going to see the suffering of others and not feel a thing and call that spiritual? That's not non-attachment. That's psychosis. That's narcissism. That's a sociopath. A psychopath doesn't feel anything. So in that meditative space, man, there's no better place than to get in touch and in tune with one's feelings, which are very much attached to one's emotions, because the feelings come in and then we emote out whatever that feeling is. And if we're not trained to do it, or we haven't trained ourselves or honed our skills to do it, we can find ourselves in a whole mess of trouble. For example, sitting there meditating and all of a sudden, or no, let's not go there yet. For example, somebody disses you and you've had enough. You've just had enough of this muff. Next time he disses me, flipping him up, right? That's the emotion that comes. I mean, that's the feeling that comes. I'm angry now, and I'm going to emote out that anger. See it? The feeling is the anger. I'm going to get him, and that feeling comes in. I'm angry, and he gave me this feeling. And I'm going to emote it out in anger. Okay? Now that feeling can come in and be transmuted. I'm going to emote it out to peace. Good one. Yeah, I thought so. Diss him back. Be at peace. walk away, let it just, roll off you. You're better than that. You're bigger than that. Don't lose your joy on what that person said. So you see, the feeling can come in. You might feel it. I'm going to be it. A meditative mind. I'm transmuting this feeling that's coming in. I'm going to mode it out as I choose. I'm going to mode out peace instead of anger. You may not always be responsible for what comes in, especially in the beginning. And you may not even be responsible for what comes out if you don't know how to transmute it. But ultimately, all of us on our evolution have to come to a point where we're responsible for what we're emoting out, what we're putting out of our water body, out of our frequency, out of our sound, out of our being. We're responsible for this, So we might get conflicting feelings at times, but when we can sit in that stillness and that meditation and we take that time often, we can learn that in our daily lives it just becomes a habit. Why? Because we've sat with it long enough. We've learned what that pain or that suffering is, and then we've transmuted it into inner peace and inner calmness. And it can come out in self-defense. It can come out in self-defense, dude's getting up on you, pop, it can come out. It can come. I'm not advocating just sitting there being a punching bag for anybody in life. How oftentimes people let the pettiness of others, interrupt their peace, interrupt their joy, interrupt their life. Based on what? Well, based on their evolution of their soul and their consciousness. But then we got to get to this place where we're getting more mature in ourselves and we realize, I'm evolving. I'm a soul who's evolving. God is evolving me. I'm experiencing all of this for my evolution. What can I do to help assist that evolutionary process? What can I do to assist God in what is happening to me already? What can I do to assist God in my environment? A helping hand? A kind word? Shut that up? What is it? Because God needs all kind of assistance in our environment. But when we know why we're emoting, we know why we're doing, when we're hip to our hop, once again, we know why we're doing intelligent movement. We know why we are doing what we do. And to me, that's the ultimate aim of meditation. It's an awareness in life. It's a stillness in life. It's a being in life that we can transmute energy internally. And there's all kinds of meditations. Okay? I just talked about, to me, the most important one that you can do and be in a habit of. If you're seriously say, I meditate. Making that altar that you sit to, the altar your consciousness when it's needed, where you can study sacred scriptures and sacred writing and inspirational writings and prophecy and philosophy and mathematics and physics, and you can sit there and study this in that quiet time, in that quiet space, and you take that time with the mind and you shut off the computers, you shut off the telephone. Don't be sitting there reading your phone, studying, watching YouTube videos, studying while you're meditating. Let your mind be away from the screen when you meditate. Get the candles going. Get the salt lamp going. Turn off all the other lights and focus in on who you are being at that moment and how you are feeling at that moment, and bring and breathe that sense of joy and that peace. I'm giving a lot of information here. This is 35 years of information, but I hope you also see how simple this actually is. Because what I've learned, is that, when I was learning Tai Chi, that's meditative movement, right? Tai Chi is meditative movement. It's meditative movement. So the mind's in a state of meditation. Yoga, same thing. Yoga. Hear that back pop? That's another great part of yoga. Yoga, meditative movement. Shout out to Minista G. Simone, the acrinologist G. Simone. Yoga, you offer God access. Yoga, you offer God access. Yoga, it's meditative movement. So you don't always have to just sit and be still. You can tune the breath and the body. One of my favorite Tai Chi books, I won't look for the quote in here. This book right here, Tai Chi, I'll put it up close there so you can see it. This Tai Chi book right here, the author of this book has studied Tai Chi and yoga quite extensively. And somebody asked him, what's the main difference between Tai Chi and yoga? And he said, Tai Chi uses the breath to get in tune with the body. Yoga uses the body to get in tune with the breath. And as somebody who's practiced both of those quite extensively in life, I must say that it's accurate. But at the end of yoga or Tai Chi, the body and the breath are in tune with one another. And so meditative, walking is so wonderful. Walking to me is the easiest of all meditations. Walking is the most underrated exercise, meditation. A good walk will alter your brain. You get outside of the box of the house or the box of your work or the box of the car or the box of wherever it is. And your brain literally, when it's outside, just starts expanding because it's got all this extra space to work with. And by walking, just the simple act of walking, and walking with purpose, walking with, the shoulders slightly back, and the head up, looking up, and the chin back just a little bit, and walking, moving the hips, and keeping the, walking. Feel your whole body movement when you're walking. Get into your walk. And that's just walking and just being loose, letting the arms swing with it. It just starts pumping all the blood. You start breaking a little sweat if it's warm. Your breath, you just start getting more breath in. Your lungs are working. Your digestion's working better. Your metabolism starts speeding up. And your mind is expanding, and you have a chance just to think. Now, I used to walk and listen to like the game of life and how to play it. I used to walk. It was like a 45-minute, an hour, I don't know how long it was, and I would walk every day with this my earphones in and just be walking around this noisy city of Sacramento. And for like months straight, I was listening to that, just getting those metaphysics in my head and in my consciousness with my iPod, right? Just walking, listening to that. And other times, I just like to walk and listen to the birds and the cars and everything else because the city's a great meditation noise. The more we can learn to be still in our motion and even in our stillness when we take the quiet time in our altar and we turn the lights down and have the candles burning, there's a stillness of meditation that just exists in all of those things. Driving, and you just realize that you're that stillness and you are that you're always in meditation after a while. I mean, I know after 35 years, I'm always in meditation. I can't not be in meditation. And if I do leave my meditation or I get worked up or I feel hostile towards something or I quickly can return back to that meditation, and I can do it in a number of ways. I can just go sit down quietly. I can just be in a crazy environment and just tune into my breath. While the club, it worked great on tour. I'd be, all the stress of tour and go find this and go do this, and being in this environment, all these people, and people spilling drinks on you, and people kicking you and stepping on you and don't even realize they're doing it, and it's dark in the club, and you got to get across a sea of people to go get this, and whatever it is, and all these people are hostile and angry or are partying and drunk, and whatever it is, high, stoned, all of it, right? Being in that space, in that environment, I had some of my best meditations. So you can meditate anywhere at any time for any reason at all. And when you can really sit there and tune in to say, like, I remember doing it at a baseball game one time. just like, 30,000 people in this stadium full of people, right? And the game's going on, and all of a sudden I just feel everything just hits stillness. And I was just able to tune into the entire baseball stadium and the feeling of it all and just be at oneness with that event that was happening. And what you learn in that meditation and why it's so important is that as you learn to just, as energies come into you, how to transmute them, it becomes a habit. So when you're out in public and you're in a meditative state of mind, you're at Costco and there's, 400 people shopping and you need to get some stuff that day and you're going to be in this craziness at Costco, like you can be in that meditative mind and still be moving the cart around quickness with the swiftness, grabbing the things that you need. But you're not going to tune into everybody else's energy around you because all of a sudden you realize like here's a secret. Here's something for you. Like we live in the third dimension, and then there's a fourth dimension, and then there's a fifth dimension, okay? And here in this third dimension, they call it the third dimension. Here in this third dimension, like the kingdom of heaven that we talk about, where our visualization is, and where all of the, what that is called the fifth dimension. And there's this other dimension between the third and the fifth dimension called the fourth dimension, and the fourth dimension is a filter. At least in my experience, every time I've gone from the third to the fifth dimension I almost feel like it's the other way around now. Really, it is the other way around. I'm the fifth dimension here in the third dimension speaking to you. I'm not the third dimension seeking the fifth dimension. I'm the fifth dimension here speaking to the third dimension. Always. But the fourth dimension is a filter because we can't let the pollution and the garbage of this, like the third dimension, the BS that happens here, it doesn't bleed over. It can't go into the fifth dimension. There's no way because the fourth dimension is the perfect filter. Always has been, always will be. So when you're meditating and you have these energies come in, realize that there is this other dimensional energy that's allowing you to feel your environment and be small with it. You don't got to feel the whole thing. I don't walk around feeling it all at Costco at all, ever. I'm just here in my zone, in my space, but I'm aware that there's a part of me that is aware of everything that's going on in there. So I'm going to move in there with grace and ease at all times and, speak and run into who I need to speak and run into and grab what I need to grab and get on my merry way. But realize that, I know a lot of people, especially people who have psychic abilities or are empathetic or have empathy or can feel their environments, they just kind of like to stay inside and they get social anxiety. I used to be one of them, right? Now my way of dealing with social anxiety was being just like, being aggressive with my environment and, moving around with purpose and, but as I gotten older, I realized that, that was my way of dealing with anxiety and now, when I'm out and about, I don't feel that. So I never even feel the social anxiety anymore. It used to be a constant in my life, and now it's just over the years of the practice, it's gone now. And I don't say this as any kind of like judgment on anybody who goes through that social anxiety. As a matter of fact, I've been there, and I know what you're going through. So we've got this filter. I call it the fourth dimension. It's been my experience, my studies, everything. It's just this filter. And so when we're in this third dimension, we've got this filter around us that while we're receiving information or while we're being the fifth dimension, like I said, I'm the fifth dimension giving information to the third dimension always, that there is a filter here. So as I'm bringing my fifth dimensional energy in, there's nothing coming back in to get me at all, okay? So when you're meditating or in your day-to-day life, you feel that energy. That you have this filter around you that doesn't really allow, but you got to tune into that filter. You got to vibrate with that filter. The fourth dimension is not easy to vibrate with. It's its own frequency. When you're meditating and you hit that fifth dimension and you start seeing things in your mind and you start having real visions and your body, my meditations have gotten to where I'd just be sitting there, I'd be like, I'd be vibrating so fast, I'd be like, what is going on? It used to scare me, right? It used to scare me. I'd be like, oh shit, I'd get up and like move around and I'd be like, what was that? And then I just realized that it was just, It would eventually calm its way out. Because the spirit vibrates faster than the human body, so when we're tuning in with the spirit, the body's got to be able to keep up, and that's why diet and water and tea and exercise. That's why yoga and Tai Chi. That's why these things are so good for the meditative mind, being in shape, being fit. Because once the spirit starts vibrating faster in you, the body wants to be able to vibrate with the spirit, right? And so you got a body that can move and vibrate with the spirit, then you can start, you'll experience more miracles in your life that are really funny and just really unexplainable, right? You're in the right place at the right moment, or you pick the right thing up at the right time, or you turn around and block something from bumping into you, or you walk by and something falls and you just catch and pick it up, and it's just like these things just happen. Or people just go, hey, I needed to see you. There you are. I was just thinking about you. Or you walk in the room where he's like, hey, there he is. Did you hear us? And you're like, no, I didn't hear you. Well, what's up? So these things will start happening in your life. It's just a miracle of life. And the meditative mind, when you can be out there in the meditative mind, you feel more comfortable with who you are and what you're doing. And you can be more aware of how you can help other people in your environment, or be more aware of what those other people are doing in your environment. Because the ones that have ill intentions in your environment, you want to be aware who those are too. Meditation is not about being blissed out. It's not about being ignorant. It's not about tuning out of what's going on in the environment. It's not about any of those things. I tried. It doesn't work. That environment's going to smack you in the face sooner or later. Because it's for the evolution of your consciousness, and God's putting you through this. Remember, God's putting us through this experience for a reason. And this technique, this meditative technique, to me, it is that reason. And I love the study. You can study meditation and study music. Did we talk about music and meditation and not meditation music? Because be careful. Be careful of all the YouTube so-called meditation music. Like 85% of it is crap. It's just crap. It's not like harmonious, what they call binaural. There are wonderful binaural beats out there. There is wonderful binaural music out there. Dig a little deeper. Not the most popular ones that pop up right off the bat, or dig through the most popular ones and find those ones. The solfeggio tones are amazing for meditation. Our ARC technology is amazing for meditation. TheTreeOfLifeTech.com, little plug right there. Amazing for meditation. Certain rocks, certain crystals are amazing for meditation, but be mindful. Be mindful. There are charlatans everywhere who are selling things with bad energy on them just so they can make a buck off of you, because they don't know any better. And there's charlatans everywhere teaching some BS forms of meditation, because meditation is you and God, you and the universe. If you're not comfortable with the term God, but if you're here, you better be very comfortable with the word God, because it's just you and God when you're meditating. So be mindful. There's a lot. I've seen some bad meditation techniques, some charlatans, and some evil sorcerers who are deliberately misleading people and using their energy through their whack meditations. They're siphoning energy off of people. I've seen it. Be mindful of it out there in the psychonaut realms. If you a psychonaut and I don't really usually talk about this, but if you drinking the ayahuasca, or you eating the magic mushrooms, or you smoking the DMT, or you getting really, really high off of that wax, you taking those dabs and you just taking more THC than your grandpa ever had in his life in one hit. And his whole life. 84 years, your grandpa didn't have as much THC as you just had in that one hit, right? So if you're in the psychonaut realms and you're into that mystical realm and the hallucinogenic realm and you're taking those things, like, be mindful of this, man. Remember, as John Trudell says, we're in the place that eats spirits. Protect your spirit. Do not haphazardly just be getting into the psychedelic realms and things like that. Find that place and do it in the right way. Just make your own ceremony up, okay? It's just something peaceful that involves water, some Bob Marley, and a quiet spot, right? I have lost so many friends growing up to overindulgence in psychedelics. And in my life, they just let their mind go somewhere because that escape seems greater than to evolve with life itself. And maybe they're too afraid of what God's actually doing in life. But I'll tell you, I've seen people's energy bodies with psychedelics be so taken. And I know it doesn't have to be that way because I've taken different psychedelics in different environments and I took them, just like everybody else, recreational, and had to deal with the effects of that. And they've done nothing but brighten my soul and my spirit. But like, those experiences are sacred and they shouldn't be experienced all the time. They should be something you can go back to and as a reminder, as a time. Okay? So don't just go out there, young people. Be mindful of it. Be mindful what you put in your body and be mindful of who you've gotten it from. I've known 3 people in my life who've taken so much LSD by accident or by purpose that somebody spiked them with. One guy ate the mushrooms and somebody poured a vial of LSD on the mushrooms, then tell him he ate the mushrooms. It's taken like 30,000 hits of acid at once. He walks around, he sees things, he's permafried, is what they used to call it back in the 60s. I don't call it that. He's just constantly seeing stuff all the time. And he's meditated, he's accepted it, this is what he is, this is his course in life. He's a wonderful person. But man, that's not easy to deal with, right? Imagine you just out driving and all of a sudden you're seeing speckles and things moving and reality shifting and warping while you're driving with your family in the car, right? Another friend of mine, young kid, man. I remember this dude was deep, right? We was working out, we was doing landscaping together, right? And I don't know, I was in my late 20s. This dude was like 18 or something, right? And the kid was deep and sharp, and he went to a festival that weekend with his girlfriend, or he was with this girlfriend who was just evil personified for him. She was just bad for him. And so while he passed out, too much to drink at the or whatever and too much partying at the festival. He passed out. When he woke up, he's coming to and somebody was pouring acid into his hand. Now acid, LSD, I suggest you never do it. From Minista Zin Uru to you, never do LSD, never touch it. Mushrooms are better. Other things are better that nature created. It's just a fractal of the perfection that nature created. I don't do it. But when I did do it, it was a bad experience and I only had a little bit, like 2 tabs or something. But it's the strongest chemical known to man. And so they put a little tiny microdose on a little tiny tab of paper. So imagine like this little tiny super, like 0.0 or whatever milligrams on this little tiny tab of paper is going to have somebody tripping for like 4 or 5 hours. And then to have 30,000 of those just on your hand and soaked into your skin. So the point being is this dude, he just lost his mind. Like I'd see him, he'd just be like, a sharp kid just, out in the wrong environment at the wrong time and somebody evil comes along and pours acid all over him So young people, be careful, be careful when you're going out and about at different parties and in different environments. It's better to be safe than sorry. It's better to be disciplined in those environments and go in sober and leave sober than to go in, pass out, and don't know what happened to you, and you never quite get your mind back. Okay? Evil loves company. They say misery loves company. Evil is miserable. Evil loves company. Evil will do nothing but try and bring everything down with it. And you have a duty to yourself, and you have a duty to your God, not to have evil subdue you in any way, shape, or form. Be the light in your environment, young man, young woman. So we've got this meditation skill, the art of meditation. The art of meditation is always being in the meditative mind whenever or wherever you're at. Oh, let's just put a period on that with the psychedelics. Our ancestors, like our consciousness as humans, like our ancient ancestors were eating psychedelics and seeing into the spirit realm and seeing, the physics behind the physics, seeing the electromagnetic field, seeing all those vibrational frequencies and things, seeing and talking to the spirit animals and spirit guides and the gods and goddesses and all of these things. So I do not discourage that. But I do encourage it because what I encourage is responsibility, performing responsibility. Performing responsibility in an environment, in a so-called controlled environment. If you're going to drink the ayahuasca, sit with the guy who's from a 10,000-year-old tradition. And it's a ceremony, and he's got the shipibo, and he's playing the music and the songs and the prayers and the tobacco and telling the stories. I've seen a lot of good minds gone, a lot of artistic, brilliant people just gone to psychedelic abuse. Okay, period on that. The art of meditation. It's a stillness, and we can find that stillness sitting in a room. To me, that's the ultimate, because from there, that stillness in the room, everything else is born. The stillness in walking, the stillness in movement. But exercise, just walking every day. If you don't sit in meditation, walk, 4 or 5 times a week, 5 days a week. Go for a 20-minute walk. Get out, let the blood move around, let the metabolism speed up. Do that for yourself, for your clear thinking, for your health, love, awareness, and wealth. Your time alone with God is time alone with self. When we can meditate, we're alone with God. Even if we're in a crowded stadium, we can be alone with God at that moment and be still. And other people's energies and feelings can come into us, and we can emote out peace, and we can transmute what comes into us from other people and transmute out something better, something superior, something godly, something righteous, something Christ-like, something hip-hop. And no matter what happens to us in our day, we can start becoming more responsible for how we feel at all times and how we feel inside. And as I said earlier, God's going to hit you with some doozies. I guarantee you that you are going to experience some real doozies in life. And if you don't experience something that just goes, oh, and give you a gut check, you ain't living. You ain't living. Too many people are so afraid of that. They just robot as much as they can, and their reality is being pulled down from them right now. Like, it's so funny, like nothing that's happened surprises me. Like it doesn't even like blip like as a surprise. Like when 9/11 happened, I've been studying so-called conspiracy theories almost as long as I've been meditating, right? I meditated a lot on conspiracy theories just to kind of find some peace with them and transmute that as well when you hear about what's going on in the world. But, so when 9/11 happened, I wasn't surprised at all. It didn't shock me at all because I'd already read Behold the Pale Horse, and I knew what the time of day it was, and that was back in, 2000 and 1, I guess. And, when this whole thing happened in 2020 and the world went on lockdown and they're telling us this deadly virus is going, like none of it shocked me. Nothing about it was a surprise because I knew this was coming. I've studied this for so long. But I wouldn't have been able to handle it if I didn't have the meditation. Flip it over to like going on tour with the teacher after landscaping, right? I wouldn't have been able to handle that tour life at that age, complete shift in lifestyle and all the upset people I left in my wake for doing that. Family members and friends who were just, where did he go? What happened to him? And I went out and did this and became Minista Zin Uru of the Temple of Hip Hop. I wouldn't have been able to do any of that, without meditation. I wouldn't have been able to handle the incredible responsibility of the tree of life. And even be able to see the tree of life if it wasn't for the meditation. And it really, for me, my journey goes all the way back to that little dojo of Sensei Alan Dollar, Weichi Ru Karate Do Okinawan Karate, back when I was 13 years old, back in around 1986. And that journey of that meditation, it just has been with me all of that journey of the way. It has given me and helped me in the ability to draw the nectar from life itself, from the tree of life, the nectar from the tree of life. So I just want to invite my nobility that what they're showing on television, what they show in the movies, what they show on the internet, and all this blah, 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 I don't know oftentimes what meditation they're actually talking about. I could see they're not even experiencing it because when you know, you know. And when you are, you are. And when you be, you be. Maybe in the future I'll do a little more extensive meditation techniques for everybody. But I really want to talk about that because if you're on my message, and this is the closing. My message for everyone is however you meditate is the right way to meditate. And that may contradict what I was saying, all these other people teaching a lot of BS meditations, but for you, if it works, it works. The Tao Jeet Kune Do, like Bruce Lee, he learns all these martial arts styles, gets rid of everything that doesn't work, and only keeps what works. That's life, right? That's a life philosophy. What doesn't work for you doesn't work for you, but what works for you works for you. So what works in your meditation is going to work for your time, space, signature, your third dimensional body, your fourth dimensional, your fifth dimensional, and multidimensionals all beyond that. So if you might be geared towards yoga. You might be geared towards, just the walking meditation. You might be geared towards, the being still, Zazen, that deep meditation. Whatever it is in your life, it's going to enhance your life. It's going to bring more consciousness into your body, literally. You're able to hold more breath in the body, more breath in the blood, all the way down to the marrow. So peace and so much love to you, my nobility. A little different lesson this week. I didn't do any readings this week from any books. I didn't put up any photos up here. Just wanted to go straight through and talk about just meditation in general, talk about a little bit about my journey with meditation, and hopefully inspire you in some certain ways to meditate. And you probably already meditate in your life. Make more time. If you got a meditation technique that works, make more time for that. Even 15 to 20 minutes a day will change your whole day, morning or night, or in the middle of the day. I'll tell you this one real quick too. I used to find meditation, when I was learning meditation, really a whole deeper one, by the time I was 21, so I've been meditating, but by the time I was 21, I've been meditating for, 7 years, 8 years at that time. And I was working all these jobs, and I would always find a 5-minute space in the day or a couple 5-minute spaces in the day, or on my breaks, I would go off and find a spot to sit and just meditate at work. And it was great. I always had a better day at work with that. And it's probably why I quit so many jobs, because I was in such a clear space. I was like, fuck this job, I don't need it, I'm at peace. And they're disrupting my peace, because I'll tell you, peace is addictive. They don't tell you this, but peace is addictive. Inner peace is so addictive that you will want it all the time, and you'll want to experience it all the time. But as your soul evolves, you're not going to always experience inner peace, but you will experience the transmutation
of outer turmoil into inner peace. And that's when you know you've evolved. When you've taken the outer turmoil that life's throwing at you and you find some way to turn it into inner peace. You know, the Frisbee golf course. I know I talk about it a lot, but boom, we went out there earlier today, threw a round, you know. That was my meditation today. My body's relaxed, I feel good. Got out in the sun, got to sweat, got to drink a lot of water. Just got to, you know, flush whatever was in my body out of my body. And so, you know, meditation can come in so many different forms, but it's so important because your mind and your body being in harmony with your feelings and your emotions and your warm heart, you will be the miracle in other people's lives. So peace and so much love to you, my nobility. And there it is. Hit!